There is a mystery that has followed humanity for thousands of years, whispered about in sacred temples, guarded by mystics, and rediscovered in every generation by those willing to search deeper into their own nature. It is the mystery of the energy that lies within us, the same force that gives rise to life itself. Many have overlooked it, treating it as something purely physical, but in reality, it is the bridge between body, mind, and spirit. The ancients spoke of it as a hidden current, a river of fire flowing through our veins, and modern science, though still scratching the surface, has begun to confirm what was known intuitively for ages. Sexual energy is not only about reproduction, but also about perception, intuition, and awareness. Think for a moment about how alive you feel when this energy rises within you. The body heats, the heartbeat quickens, and the mind sharpens. This is not simply biology, it is life force in motion. The ancients of India called it ojas, the Chinese spoke of jing, and many other traditions gave it different names. All pointed to the same truth. When conserved, this energy strengthens a person, both physically and mentally. When wasted recklessly, it weakens them, leaving them dull, restless, or trapped in cycles of craving. In today's world, surrounded by constant distraction and instant gratification, few ever discover what happens when this life force is conserved and directed inward. But those who do often describe a remarkable transformation. Heightened awareness, sharper perception, and even flashes of intuition that feel almost supernatural. Why does this happen? Why would something as physical as semen or sexual energy have such an effect on the mind? The answer lies in understanding what energy truly is. Every action in the body, from digesting food to solving a complex problem, requires energy. Most people spend this energy outwardly, scattering it on endless desires, worries, and pleasures. But sexual energy is different. It is the highest concentration of vitality the body can produce, because its original purpose is to create new life. To bring a new human into existence demands the best of your biology. So when you choose to conserve this essence, instead of constantly releasing it, the body does something extraordinary. It reabsorbs and redirects that energy back into your system. Suddenly, the brain has more fuel, the nervous system grows stronger, and awareness becomes sharper. This is where intuition enters the story. Intuition is often described as a sixth sense, a knowing that arises without reasoning. Most people have experienced it. The gut feeling that warns you about a situation, the sudden idea that solves a problem, or the unshakable sense that you should or should not trust someone. What if this mysterious sense is not magic, but simply a natural capacity of the human mind, one that awakens when the brain has enough energy to operate at its full potential? When you conserve your life force, the fog begins to lift. The mind becomes clearer. Small details in your environment that you used to overlook suddenly become obvious. Your awareness stretches beyond the surface of things, and you begin to read situations, people, and outcomes with uncanny precision. But here lies the problem. In the modern world, almost no one experiences this state long enough to understand it. Constant stimulation from screens, entertainment, and especially pornography drains the system. Instead of building inner power, people live in a cycle of release and exhaustion. Their nervous systems become overstimulated, their focus scatters, and their intuition dulls to silence. They may think they are simply unlucky or that life is too confusing, but in reality, they have been cut off from one of their greatest internal tools. This is why so many feel lost, anxious, or directionless. They are running on empty, unaware that the fuel they need is already within them. Now one must ask, What happens if this energy is conserved for too long without understanding or control? Some seekers in the past discovered the danger of imbalance. If sexual energy builds without guidance, it can make a person restless, obsessive, or even unstable. The fire that should be directed toward clarity and strength can instead burn uncontrolled, leading to frustration or compulsive thoughts. History is full of examples of ascetics who went too far, isolating themselves from life and slipping into extremes of madness. The key is not suppression, but transformation. Energy should not be blocked, it must be guided. Like electricity, if it is not channeled properly, it can shock and harm. But if directed through the right circuits, it powers the entire system. So how does one control this force without being consumed by it? The first step is awareness. You must see this energy for what it is, not something shameful, not something purely physical, but a treasure. Treat it with respect, like a powerful tool. The second step is direction. Instead of letting the energy stagnate or spiral into obsessive desire, use it actively. Exercise, deep breathing, meditation, creative work, and purposeful living all act as channels through which life force flows upward into higher functions of the body and mind. By doing this, you prevent the energy from boiling over and instead allow it to refine you from within. The benefits of this practice are not vague or mystical. They are practical and measurable. Your concentration deepens. Your sleep becomes more restorative. Your social interactions feel more connected, as if you are picking up signals that others miss. Many report that their reflexes quicken, their memory sharpens, and their creativity blooms in unexpected ways. This is not because they have gained something new, but because they have removed the constant leakage of their most vital resource. They are no longer living half alive. They are fully awake. And yet with this awakening comes responsibility. To suddenly feel more aware than those around you can tempt a man toward pride or arrogance. This is another pitfall that must be avoided. The hidden power within is not meant to separate you from others, but to bring you closer to truth, discipline, and service. The man who uses his sharpened perception to manipulate or dominate others falls into the very trap that wastes his energy in the first place: selfishness. True mastery is quiet. It is the ability to walk through life with clarity, strength, and humility, knowing that you are guided not only by logic, but by the deeper compass of intuition that comes from a well-preserved and well-directed life force. This is why the practice of conservation has been associated with warriors, monks, inventors, and visionaries throughout history. They understood, whether consciously or instinctively, that their energy was too valuable to be squandered. They guarded it, cultivated it, and let it sharpen their senses like a blade. And in doing so, they rose above the ordinary, capable of achievements that seem beyond the reach of most. You may not be a monk or a warrior in the traditional sense, but the principle remains the same. If you want clarity in a world of confusion, strength in a time of weakness, and intuition in an age of distraction, you must learn to honor the hidden power within. Do not fear it, do not waste it, and do not let it control you. Instead, guide it. Train yourself, and watch as your perception of life expands in ways you never thought possible. The journey begins not by looking outward, but by turning inward. It begins with the recognition that what you seek has been with you all along. There comes a moment in life when a man realizes that his mind is either his greatest ally or his most dangerous enemy. Thoughts can lift him to unimaginable heights or drag him down into confusion and regret. And yet, in the chaos of modern living, most people never experience the full potential of their own minds. They live distracted, fogged, and unable to hear the quiet voice of truth that speaks beneath the noise. But there is a way to break through this haze, a way to sharpen the mind until it feels like a finely polished blade. That way begins with mastering one's life force. What seems at first like a purely physical discipline, conserving sexual energy, unfolds into something far deeper. The awakening of mental clarity, focus, and what many describe as a sixth sense. To understand this transformation, imagine the brain as a lamp. For most people, the lamp is dim. It flickers and struggles to stay lit because the fuel feeding it is constantly drained. The light is weak, and so their perception of life is weak. Their decisions lack precision, their focus slips easily, and they wander through life half-blind. But when the fuel is conserved and redirected, the lamp brightens. Suddenly, the room is illuminated, details become visible, and the world makes sense in ways it never did before. This is the phenomenon many men experience when they begin to practice retention. The fog lifts, and their mental clarity returns as though they have stepped out of darkness into sunlight. But let us go deeper. What truly changes in the mind when this discipline is practiced? First, focus. The brain is like a muscle. It grows stronger the more energy it has to work with. When life force is conserved, it no longer leaks away into constant cravings or compulsions. Instead, it builds pressure, and the brain becomes sharper. Tasks that once felt difficult now feel manageable. Concentration stretches longer. Reading, studying, working, or creating suddenly feels natural instead of exhausting. This is not mere imagination. It is the natural consequence of fueling the brain with more vitality than it is accustomed to. Second, clarity. Focus is the ability to lock onto something, but clarity is the ability to see things as they truly are. Most people live in mental noise, thoughts racing, emotions swinging, impulses pulling them in 1,000 directions. But when retention is practiced, the inner storm calms. A quietness arises, and within that quietness, truth stands out clearly. Decisions that once seemed complicated suddenly feel obvious. Patterns appear where there used to be only confusion. The man no longer struggles to see, he simply knows. And this knowing is what begins to resemble intuition. Now, what is intuition in this context? It is the bridge between the conscious and subconscious mind. Every day, the subconscious collects more information than the conscious mind can process. It notices body language, tone, atmosphere, and patterns that never reach the surface of awareness. Normally, these signals are drowned out by noise and distraction. But when the mind is sharpened through conservation, those signals rise upward. You feel them as gut instincts, flashes of insight, or inner warnings. This is why a man on retention often describes feeling more in tune with himself and with life. It is not magic. It is the subconscious finally having enough space and energy to speak. The problem is that most people never awaken this intuitive mind. Modern life is designed to pull attention outward. Constant stimulation scatters focus until the subconscious cannot communicate clearly. As a result, people live disconnected from their own inner compass. They make choices against their better judgment. They ignore warning signs, and they repeat mistakes. They may feel that something inside them is trying to guide them, but the signal is weak, like a radio station lost in static. Over time, they stop listening altogether. This is why so many live with regret. They silence the very voice that could have guided them. But retention begins to repair this bridge. The conscious mind becomes calmer, the subconscious grows louder, and the two begin to work together. The result is something extraordinary. You see through lies more easily. You sense danger before it arrives. You recognize opportunities the moment they appear. Your decision-making improves, not because you are guessing, but because your whole being is working together. Logic supported by instinct. It is as though life itself begins to whisper in your ear. However, with this new awareness comes a challenge. If a man does not understand what is happening, he can fall into extremes. Too much focus on intuition without grounding in logic can make him superstitious, paranoid, or reckless. He may start seeing signs in everything, mistaking coincidence for destiny. He may hear the voice of fear and think it is the voice of truth. In short, he may lose balance. This is the dark side of awakening the intuitive mind without discipline. History is full of men who had flashes of genius but were consumed by their own unstable thoughts because they lacked control. The solution is balance. Intuition is not meant to replace logic, but to complement it. Logic is like a compass, steady and precise, while intuition is like the wind that hints at what lies ahead. Alone, each is limited. Together they form true guidance. The key is to treat intuition as a signal, not a command. Listen to it, but test it against reason. If your inner voice tells you to act, pause for a moment. Reflect. Is this impulse aligned with truth, or is it driven by fear or desire? By practicing this balance, you can train your intuitive mind to become sharper without falling into the trap of self-deception. How can one strengthen this balance in daily life? The first method is meditation. Meditation creates silence in the mind, allowing subconscious signals to rise clearly instead of being drowned in noise. The second is physical discipline. Exercise, breathing practices, and deliberate rest keep the nervous system balanced, preventing the energy from boiling over into chaos. The third is creativity. Writing, art, music, or problem solving give the subconscious a healthy outlet to express itself, ensuring that intuitive signals manifest productively. And the fourth is humility. A man must always remember that awareness is a gift, not proof of superiority. Pride clouds clarity faster than anything else. The benefits of this training are profound. You will find yourself making decisions with confidence, no longer second-guessing every choice. Opportunities that once passed you by will now seem obvious. Your relationships will deepen because you will sense unspoken emotions and intentions. Your work will improve because your focus and creativity will be sharper. Most importantly, you will feel aligned with yourself, no longer torn between conflicting impulses, but guided by a harmony between logic and instinct. This is what it means to awaken the intuitive mind. It is not about magic or superstition, but about becoming fully human. It is about reclaiming the natural clarity and focus that belong to you, but which modern life has stolen. It is about building a bridge between your conscious reasoning and your subconscious knowing, so that your decisions are guided by the full intelligence of your being. The path is not always easy, and the temptation to fall back into distraction is strong. But every step you take in conserving your energy, calming your mind, and balancing your logic with intuition brings you closer to mastery. And mastery of the mind is mastery of life. The hidden power within you is no longer just potential. It is now active, guiding you, sharpening you, and leading you into the kind of clarity that most people only dream about. Before we move on, I would like to let you know that if you're struggling with your sexual urges or any other bad habits, and you want to learn how to control your lower nature more easily, achieve the streaks you want, quit all your bad habits, and become successful, instead of relapsing and wasting all your energy, I suggest you read The Art of Not Forcing. It teaches you about the ancient practices of Wu Wei, which means effortless action. This doesn't mean being lazy. It's about learning to overcome difficult challenges with a clearer and calmer mind, instead of feeling irritated all the time. Semen retention won't be easy, of course. It will feel like war, and that's good. The effort you put in and the struggles you face are what make you tougher. The art of not forcing simply will help you navigate through your journey with a more strategic and stoic way, helping you feel calmer and achieve your goals more effortlessly. The link is in the description below if you want to check it out. There are moments in life when the world feels more alive than usual. The colors seem brighter, the sounds clearer, the air itself almost charged with electricity. Most people only feel this during rare flashes of inspiration, in times of love, or in states of extreme presence. Yet what if this heightened state of perception was not random? What if it could be cultivated and sustained by channeling the very force that fuels life itself? This is the hidden effect of conserving sexual energy. It does not only sharpen the mind, but it also amplifies the senses, awakening the body to a level of perception that seems almost otherworldly. To understand this phenomenon, consider the body as a network of sensors. The eyes, ears, skin, and nerves are constantly feeding information to the brain, but most people's signals are dull, like a radio with weak reception. Why? Because their system is exhausted, drained, and overloaded with distractions. Energy is dispersed outward, leaving little vitality to power the senses fully. As a result, they move through life half asleep, not truly seeing, hearing, or feeling the world around them. But when life force is conserved, the system begins to recharge. The body has more energy to distribute, and suddenly the senses awaken. Colors appear more vivid, sounds resonate more deeply, and even touch feels richer. It is as though the volume of life itself has been turned up. This sensory expansion is not just about sharper eyesight or better hearing. It is about awareness as a whole. A man on retention often describes feeling more present in his environment. He notices details that others overlook, a subtle shift in someone's tone, a faint tension in the air, the atmosphere of a room as soon as he enters it. This is what some traditions have called aura awareness, the ability to sense not only what is visible and audible, but also the subtle energy that people and places give off. Science may not have fully explained this yet, but anyone who has walked into a room and felt tension without a word being spoken knows it is real. Retention seems to heighten this faculty, making it easier to read the invisible signals of life. But here lies the problem. Most people never train this sensitivity. In fact, many numb it on purpose. Overexposure to screens, artificial stimulation, and indulgence in constant gratification dull the senses until subtle signals vanish. They can no longer read a person's intentions unless it is spelled out clearly. They miss opportunities because they cannot feel when a situation is right. They walk through life blind to the silent language that reality is always speaking. And because of this, they make mistakes in trust, in timing, and in judgment that could have been avoided if their awareness was sharper. When energy is retained, however, the opposite occurs. The nervous system grows stronger and sensitivity returns. A man begins to feel more deeply, not in a dramatic or mystical sense, but in a practical one. He can sense when someone's smile hides deception. He can detect when a conversation carries unspoken tension. He can even feel when a place is uplifting or draining. This is why many men on this path describe the ability to see through others, as if their intentions are written on their faces. The energy amplifies the sensory channels until perception goes beyond the surface. Yet with this gift comes a challenge. To see more deeply is not always comfortable. When your senses awaken, you may notice dishonesty, envy, or negativity in people you once trusted blindly. You may feel the heaviness of certain environments that you used to ignore. This clarity can be overwhelming at first. Some men even become paranoid, misinterpreting every signal as a threat. Others grow arrogant, believing that their heightened perception makes them superior. In both cases, the gift becomes a burden. Instead of using their sensitivity for growth, they allow it to destabilize them. This is the dark side of sensory expansion without balance. The key, then, is control. Sensory amplification is not meant to make you suspicious of everyone or fearful of life. It is meant to make you more discerning. When you sense negative energy in a person, it is not a sign to hate them, but a reminder to protect your boundaries. When you feel tension in a place, it is not a command to panic, but a signal to stay aware. The point of this awareness is not to live in fear, but to live with clarity. It is like driving with the headlights on. You see the road more clearly, but you must still steer with calm hands. To harness this gift without losing balance, you must ground yourself in logic and discipline. Use your senses as tools, not as masters. When you sense dishonesty, confirm it with evidence before acting. When you feel negativity in an environment, do not assume the worst, but test the atmosphere with calm observation. Train yourself to interpret signals correctly rather than reacting impulsively. By doing so, you transform sensitivity from a burden into a powerful ally. The benefits of mastering this heightened perception are immense. Your social awareness grows. You can navigate relationships with greater skill, avoiding toxic dynamics while building genuine connections. Your work improves because you notice details others miss. The flaw in a design, the tone in a negotiation, the hidden opportunity in a situation. Even in your personal life, you feel more alive because every sense is engaged fully. Food tastes richer, music resonates more deeply, nature appears more breathtaking. Life itself feels more vibrant when the senses are amplified. And yet the greatest benefit is not just sharper perception of the outer world, but of the inner world. The same energy that heightens your senses outwardly also makes you more aware inwardly. You notice the subtleties of your own emotions, the patterns of your own thoughts, the tension in your own body. This inner awareness allows you to correct yourself before problems grow. You catch yourself before anger explodes, before fear paralyzes you, before doubt holds you back. In this way, sensory expansion becomes self-mastery. Ultimately, energy amplification is a reminder that you are designed for more than dull living. You are meant to see clearly, feel deeply, and move through the world with an awareness that borders on the extraordinary. Retention does not give you anything new. It simply restores what has always been possible when your system runs at full strength. But with restoration comes responsibility. You must decide whether to let this power make you paranoid, arrogant, and unstable, or to let it guide you into clarity, balance, and wisdom. The world is full of unseen signals waiting to be noticed. Most people walk past them blind, but you now have the choice to open your eyes fully, to hear more than words, to feel more than touch, and to live in a way that is both sharper and deeper. This is the path of energy amplification and sensory expansion. It is not an escape from reality. It is a fuller encounter with it. There is a reason why nearly every spiritual tradition in history speaks of discipline over desire. Beneath the surface of religious practices, rituals, and meditations lies a common understanding. The human being carries within him a doorway to higher perception, a window into realities beyond ordinary sight. Most people never glimpse this vision, living instead in a flat world of surface appearances. But those who conserve and refine their life force often report something extraordinary, a deepening of spiritual insight, a sharpening of inner vision, and the awakening of a consciousness that sees through illusion. Retention becomes a catalyst in this process, not because it grants magical powers, but because it gathers and redirects the very energy that fuels spiritual awakening. The body, when constantly drained, struggles to rise beyond the material. It remains chained to cravings, habits, and the endless chase for satisfaction. But when energy is conserved, it begins to rise upward, feeding the higher centers of the brain and spirit. What was once scattered outward in pursuit of fleeting pleasure becomes concentrated inward, lighting the path of inner vision. Many who walk this path describe feeling as if a veil has been lifted. The world looks the same, yet feels completely different. One of the keys to this awakening lies in what mystics have long called the third eye, often associated with the pineal gland at the center of the brain. For centuries, this tiny gland has been linked with inner vision, dreams, and spiritual awareness. Modern science knows it as the regulator of melatonin and circadian rhythms, but traditions from India to Egypt saw it as more a bridge between the physical and the spiritual. When life force is conserved and refined, pressure builds in the nervous system, and many report sensations in the forehead, a kind of awakening in the region of the pineal gland. Whether symbolic or literal, the experience is often described as a new form of sight, not with the eyes, but with the mind and soul. This inner vision is not about seeing ghosts or magical images. It is about perceiving truth beneath appearances. A man with sharpened spiritual awareness begins to recognize the hidden motives behind words, the currents beneath events, the lessons woven into daily life. He feels connected to something larger than himself, as if a higher intelligence is guiding his steps. His decisions take on a new depth, no longer driven only by logic or instinct, but by a wisdom that feels timeless. This is why retention has been considered sacred in many spiritual lineages. It provides the energy necessary for higher consciousness to stabilize. Yet here we encounter a problem. Awakening spiritual vision is not without danger. When perception sharpens, illusions also become more seductive. The mind, now highly energized, may begin to project its own fantasies and fears, mistaking them for truth. A man might believe every dream is a prophecy, every coincidence a divine sign, or every thought a message from above. In this state, it is easy to fall into self-deception, mistaking imagination for revelation. History is full of seekers who touched glimpses of higher awareness, but lost themselves in delusion, unable to distinguish between real insight and mental projection. This is why balance is essential. The purpose of higher consciousness is not to escape reality, but to see reality more clearly. Spiritual vision should bring clarity, not confusion. It should ground you deeper in truth, not lift you into fantasy. Retention fuels the opening of this vision, but discipline and humility guide it safely. Without these, a man risks becoming a prisoner of his own illusions. So how does one cultivate spiritual vision without losing grip on truth? The first key is discernment. When insights arise, test them. Do they align with reality? Do they lead to growth, wisdom, and clarity, or do they stir arrogance and fear? True vision brings peace and guidance. False vision brings chaos and pride. The second key is grounding. Stay connected to daily life, work, relationships, and responsibilities. Spiritual insight should enhance how you live in the world, not pull you away from it. The third key is humility. The more perception sharpens, the greater the temptation to feel superior. But the moment pride takes root, clarity begins to fade. The benefits of walking this path with balance are profound. You begin to live with a deeper sense of meaning, seeing patterns and connections in events that once seemed random. You feel guided, not by superstition, but by an inner compass that points steadily toward truth. In conversations, you sense honesty and dishonesty more easily. In decisions, you feel a quiet assurance that goes beyond reasoning. In moments of stillness, you feel connected to something greater. Call it God, the divine, the universe, or simply the deeper intelligence within. Most importantly, spiritual vision allows you to distinguish between illusion and truth in daily interactions. When someone flatters you falsely, you see the motive behind their words. When fear tries to cloud your judgment, you recognize it for what it is. When desire tempts you off your path, you perceive its emptiness before it can deceive you. This does not make you infallible, but it does make you far less vulnerable to the traps that enslave most people. Retention alone does not guarantee enlightenment, but it provides the raw energy needed for the process. Just as a lamp cannot shine without oil, the spirit cannot illuminate without vitality. By conserving life force, you fuel the lamp of consciousness until its light grows strong enough to pierce the shadows of illusion. But just as important as conserving the energy is knowing how to use it. If directed upward with discipline, it refines the mind and opens the inner eye. If left unmanaged, it feeds pride, fantasy, and delusion. The choice lies with you. The journey of spiritual vision is not about seeing the invisible or escaping the world. It is about living with eyes wide open, seeing truth where others see only appearances, hearing wisdom where others hear only noise, and walking with guidance where others stumble blindly. It is about rising beyond the illusions of fear, desire, and ego, and touching the deeper reality that has always been present. The door to higher consciousness is not locked. It waits patiently for the one who has the discipline to conserve his essence, the humility to stay grounded, and the courage to face truth without flinching. When that door opens, you realize that the real vision was never outside of you. It was always within. Imagine walking through life with a silent companion who whispers truths before they unfold, warns you of deception before it reaches you, and guides you toward opportunities before anyone else notices them. This is not a fantasy or the plot of a film. Through the discipline of conserving energy and directing it inward, a man reaches a point where awareness no longer feels ordinary. His intuition is no longer a vague hunch, but a reliable guide, shaping his choices with precision and clarity. The question then becomes, how does one live with such a gift? The first practical application lies in reading people. Every human being communicates far more through energy, body language, and tone than through words. Most ignore these signals, blinded by appearances. But a man whose senses have been sharpened through retention perceives the subtle layers beneath. He notices hesitation in the voice, tension in the eyes, or the insincerity behind a smile. He sees beyond the surface and into intention. This ability is not about paranoia, but about discernment. It allows him to protect himself from manipulation, false promises, and empty relationships. In a world filled with masks, he learns to see the face behind the mask. The second application is avoiding deception, not only from others, but also from within. The greatest lies are often the ones we tell ourselves. Excuses, rationalizations, and fears disguised as logic. With a sixth sense awakened, self-deception becomes harder to maintain. You feel it immediately when your motives are impure, when you are chasing weakness instead of strength, when you are about to betray your own values. This is a painful awareness at times because it strips away comfort. But it is also liberating because it leaves no room for illusions to enslave you. By confronting truth directly, you become stronger, steadier, and less vulnerable to being swayed by the world. The third application is sensing opportunities. Many believe that success comes only from luck or brute force, but often it comes from timing, being in the right place at the right moment with the right decision. Retention sharpens this timing. You begin to feel when a door is about to open, when a conversation carries hidden potential, or when a path should be pursued or abandoned. This sense of knowing when often feels uncanny, as if guided by something beyond reason. Yet it is not superstition. It is the natural result of heightened perception. Your subconscious gathers signals from the environment, and your intuition translates them into clear impulses. You may not be able to explain why, but you simply know. But here arises a great problem: how to balance this awareness without losing your footing. For men who experience these changes, the temptation is strong to swing to extremes, either drowning in mystical thinking or using their sharpened perception to dominate others. Both paths lead to imbalance. The sixth sense is not meant to replace discipline, nor is it meant to inflate ego. A man who abandons discipline becomes reckless, floating aimlessly on feelings. A man who clings to pride loses clarity because arrogance blinds vision faster than ignorance. The true path lies in balance, the union of masculine discipline and spiritual clarity. Masculine discipline grounds the man. It keeps him consistent in his habits, structured in his actions, and strong in his principles. Without discipline, spiritual clarity drifts into fantasy, but spiritual clarity elevates the man. It prevents his discipline from becoming rigid, cold, or mechanical. Without clarity, discipline turns into blind routine. Together, the two form a harmony. Discipline gives direction, clarity gives vision, and together they create wisdom in action. This balance is the heart of living with the sixth sense activated. Another challenge is longevity. Many men experience temporary awakenings when they first practice retention, only to fall back into old patterns and lose their clarity. They taste the power, but cannot hold on to it. Why? Because they treat retention as a sprint instead of a lifestyle. They see it as a challenge to endure for a certain number of days, rather than a transformation to integrate permanently. This short-term mindset creates cycles of progress and relapse, awakening and forgetting. The sixth sense cannot stabilize in such conditions. The solution is to make retention sustainable. This does not mean suppressing desire with iron will alone. That path eventually breaks. It means transforming desire into energy that fuels growth. Exercise, creative expression, deep breathing, prayer, meditation, and purposeful living all provide channels for the energy to flow upward instead of stagnating. The more these practices become part of your life, the less you feel enslaved by urges. Retention then shifts from struggle into harmony, and your intuitive growth becomes permanent. When this lifestyle is maintained, the benefits compound over time. Your perception continues to refine, your decisions become consistently sharper, and your awareness stabilizes into something unshakable. You no longer chase clarity in fleeting moments. Clarity becomes your natural state. You walk into a room and feel its atmosphere instantly. You meet someone and sense their character without effort. You face choices and know which path aligns with truth. This is what it means to live with the sixth sense activated, not in bursts, but as a steady companion in daily life. Yet even here, caution is necessary. A man who relies solely on intuition without humility risks falling into overconfidence. He may mistake his heightened awareness as infallibility, forgetting that he is still human. To guard against this, one must remain teachable, willing to test intuition against reason and experience. True wisdom is not about always being right, but about correcting quickly when wrong. The sixth sense does not make you a prophet, it makes you more aligned. The difference is humility. Ultimately, living with the sixth sense activated is about integration. It is not about separating yourself from the world, but engaging with it more deeply. It is not about rejecting logic, but enhancing it with insight. It is not about escaping human limitations, but refining them into strengths. This path asks for patience, balance, and responsibility. But the reward is extraordinary. A life lived with clarity, protection from deception, and alignment with opportunities that others cannot see. When energy is conserved, discipline practiced, and clarity maintained, the sixth sense ceases to be a rare spark and becomes a steady flame. And with that flame, a man can walk through the darkness of the world without fear, because he carries his own light within. If you made it until here, leave a crown emoji in the comments. I want to see how many actually made it this far, and since you did, I know you aren't lazy and can focus on something meaningful without getting distracted. Well done, brother. Always take care and keep guarding your energy and holding on to that power. And remember, live with honor or die a coward. Thank you so much for watching.